try again. Now, y'all didn't say it like you really mean it. So look at another neighbor. Maybe they don't want to talk to you. Look at another neighbor and say, neighbor, oh neighbor, try again. Try again. Take a few moments with me and let's walk through this text. Right before this event took place, Jesus had been crucified. He had been nailed to a cross. He had hung between two thieves. He had dropped his head in the locks of his shoulder. And the Bible says he gave up the ghost. In other words, as the old Baptist preacher would say, he died. He was not in a coma. He died. I want you to hit your neighbor and say, he died. He died. You will be surprised that there are some people who actually believe that Jesus did not actually die, but he was in a temporary coma. But he died. He died. He died. They died, and they took him off the cross, and they laid him in a borrowed tomb. Somebody shout, borrowed tomb. Borrowed is very important because Jesus was laid in a tomb that did not belong to him because he was not going to stay there very long. It was a temporary situation. I'm going to put a dime in the meter right here and speak to somebody in the room to let you know that what you're going through right now, don't own it. It's only temporary. I got 3 people who caught that. Look at your neighbor and say, don't own it. Don't own it. Don't you stay there in that state because it is only temporary. Minister Johnson can share with you that I share with my congregation all the time that when you are in trouble, you don't have time to build a house. You make a tent there. You don't have time to fry chicken there because it's too much work to fry chicken. You got enough time to make a bologna sandwich. What are you talking about, preacher? Your situation is only temporary. Don't you house there because God is about to bring you out. I'm going to preach my own self happy here. Look at somebody and say, God's about to bring you out. And Jesus was laid in a borrowed tomb. A temporary situation, and the Bible says that he stayed in that tomb until early Sunday morning, where he got up with all power in his hand. And the Bible says that when he got up, he walked the earth for about 40 days after his resurrection. And during that 40-day period, while he was walking on the earth, he visited his disciples. He showed up in the room without unlocking the door. He just walked up in the room. Hanna, preach anyway. He walked up in the room and said, grace and peace be unto you. He started having conversation with them. And at one point when he visited them, Thomas wasn't there. So the second time he visited them, Thomas had a doubting spirit. He said, I'm not going to believe it's him until I put my hands in his nail print and hands in his side. And Jesus showed up and said, Thomas, touch me and doubt no more. How many of you know that God will take care of your doubts? He will prove to you that he's God and he will show up right on time. The Bible says that Jesus visited his disciples. And after he visited his disciples, the Bible says that he ascended into heaven. He ascended into heaven. And when he ascended, let me back up a little bit. Before he ascended into heaven, he had another meeting with his disciples. Because Jesus had disappeared, the Bible says that Simon Peter opened up his mouth and looked looked at 7 of his disciples, his fellow followers, and he said, I'm going back fishing. The Bible says that he went back fishing. Are y'all still there? He went back fishing. And the Bible says that he fished all night. They fished all night. I said they fished all night. And they caught nothing. They caught nothing. I don't know who I'm talking to in the room, but you have tried a whole lot of stuff. You have been trying to make things work. You have been trying to work out situations. You have been trying to turn your situation around. You've been doing it all night. But I'm glad that when I've done all I can do, Jesus will show up. Look at somebody and say, Jesus will show up. Because the Bible says that while they were fishing all night and caught nothing, the Bible says they were about to give up. They were about to give up, and Jesus showed up and said, hey, friends, do you have any fish? They said, no, we ain't caught nothing, but we've been doing it all night. And Jesus said, well, I want you to try it again. And this time, I want you to fish on the right side. I'm getting ready to teach y'all something real quick. I studied about fishermen, Pamela. I studied about fishermen. And in the biblical days, when the fishermen fished, they fished on the left side of the boat because it was easier to pull the fish out on the left side of the boat. They had been fishing on the left side all night, and they caught nothing. You've been trying it your way for years. You have been trying to figure it out your way for months. You have been trying to fix it your way for days, and nothing has happened. But here comes a refreshing. Here comes an opportunity to try it one more time. And when you try it this time, you got to follow new directions. Oh, I feel like preaching here. You need to follow new directions. I need you to tap 3 people and say, follow new directions. I know you have been doing it that way for so long, but God says it's time to try something new. I need you to, somebody shout, it's time to try something new. It's time to do a new thing. We're not living in the 8-track world no more. We're not even living in the CD world no more. We got to try it another way, and we got to try it again. Can I get 15 people to stand on your feet real quick and say, I'm going to try it again? Somebody shout, I'm going to try it again. I done did it all night, and my flesh wants to give up, but I'm going to try it again.